license, which is fabulous to know. I'm Tommy, as you can probably guess from somewhere on my screen. I am Woolworths Customer Success Manager. What that means is if you have interest in Acrobat, Creative Cloud, Acrobat Sign, or any of the solutions that sit within those, I'm the first person you can feel free to reach out to. I work very closely with a lot of your teams, everyone from the in-house agency right through to Michelle and Rob, who sit on the learning development side. If you have any challenges, any interest in learning more, or just anything you want to learn more about the Adobe solutions, please feel free to reach out to myself, and I'll be happy to help direct you to the right person. I am thrilled to be joined today by my friend and colleague, Callum, who is going to be taking you through this Acrobat session. Callum.
Yeah, perfect. So yes, as Tommy said, I'm Callum. I work on the same team, Customer Success, but we've been focusing, and this is actually a repeat of another session that we ran similar earlier on for Woolies around Acrobat and how you can make the most of that pro license that you have access to. So the session is designed today that you don't need any prior knowledge that comes in. We'll take you through some of the core PDF tools that comes in from there around sort of, what PDF is, just some of the basics that we want you to be totally across. So editing, combining, optimizing PDFs or any documents there, scan and OCR and other technology under there. Then we're going to look at protecting information and accessibility, two really key topics that we want everyone to be across in the organization. They're becoming more and more important as we're working in sort of our digital world. And then lastly, we're going to have a little bit of a look at Adobe Express. This is a new tool that's being developed internally at Woolies that goes in. Your design teams are working really hard to get brands and content there, but you get access to it as part of your pro license as well. So we're going to have a little bit of a look at that today. I have a little sample Express template that you can have a play around with. But this is one that you would keep your ears to the ground for your design team. They're working really hard to get all the Woolies assets in there, so you're able to modify and change your PDF documents with ease that comes in. Obviously recording today's session, and if you have any questions, put them into the chat box. We'll try and answer them as we go along, and if we can't, we'll answer them at the end. That goes in. Perfect. So today, let's start off with understanding PDF. Now, we always start these sessions with a little bit of understanding PDF because it helps to kind of ground the editing features that we'll be looking at today and how these tools kind of connect together. But PDF has been around for 32-ish years now. It's called portable document format. And the original reason it was created is back in the day when I sent something to your computer, the way it was represented on my computer wasn't necessarily the exact same way it was going to be represented on your computer. So things like fonts or images or things like that just weren't consistent across devices. So Adobe invented the PDF to help solve for that. And over time, you can see it's evolved into more of an umbrella term of different file formats that are all encompassed under this one PDF. So it was formalized as PDF 1.7 in July 2008. That's probably where we started seeing it as our file attachments everywhere. But as we said, it's an umbrella term. So PDF is not just thinking about what you're seeing on the screen, a file attachment that we see there. It can encompass things like PDF-A. So if you're working in like long-term archival, you might be using a PDF-A there to ensure that everything is combined together. So if you open it up 10 years down the track, all the fonts and all the files are there. PDF-E for engineering, if you're using engineering documents and things like that. Even if you're in that accessibility world, you might be using PDF-UA to verify that your documents are accessible. Now, you don't have to be an expert in any of these. These are all umbrella terms that comes under. But the reason that we mention these is because we want you to be thinking of PDF as not just what you see on the screen, but as a container of intelligence. And we're going to come back to this idea a couple of times throughout today's session, that yes, what you see on screen, that presentation layer, if you printed out that document, that's what you would see. But underneath is this data layer. And the logic layer can apply to that as well. But the data layer is really important because that's actually what Acrobat is editing when you're editing a PDF, or what Acrobat is converting when you're converting a PDF. Or importantly, when you're doing things like redacting, it's redacting that data layer. A lot of other tools only look at the presentation layer and only edit on that layer. And that in today's digital world, we need to be looking at that data layer. We need to be looking directly into the document and using tools that are verified for things like redaction, for things like accessibility that goes in. So we'll come back to this idea multiple times, but think of the PDF as this container. We're not just thinking of what you can see on the screen. It's that layer underneath, and including things like applying logic to that layer as well that comes in. Now, we're going to be looking at a bunch of these top tools today. We're not going to cover everything in Acrobat. Acrobat has hundreds and thousands of features in there, but these are just the top things that we want you to be across. Comes in. Awesome. Now, Acrobat doesn't live in a vacuum. It lives in what we call the Adobe Document Cloud, which is a whole suite of tools that you have access to. Of course, you have Acrobat on the desktop, which is primarily where we'll be looking today. But as part of your Pro license, you have access to Acrobat on mobile as well, on the desktop as well, and even our mobile apps on the web that goes in from there. And specifically for Woolies, one of the key things that we want you to be across is this also includes an extensible tool inside Chrome that you can add directly into your Chrome browser. And what that will allow you to do is anytime that you open up a PDF, let's say we're opening up something from Google Drive, you'll have access to Acrobat in your browser. Most of the tools that we look at today are available also in the browser. So if you want to do some quick editing or converting of a PDF directly in Chrome, you can do that with that Acrobat add-in. It will even allow you to pick up PDF documents that you're looking at on any web page and have these Acrobat tools available to you. So I would highly recommend jumping in and looking in the Chrome Web Store for the Acrobat add-in. If you don't have it added already, it can really help when you're looking online and access all these cool tools. And you'll notice I opened that from Google Drive as well. That's another aspect that you can talk about when you're using Acrobat, is that you can hook it up to your existing storage platforms like Google Drive. So if you have a document stored in your Drive, you can just access it directly in the desktop application. You don't have to download and re-upload or anything like that. But if you have it in the desktop app and you have this Chrome add-in, you can work in a consistent space that comes in. Awesome. We'll send you the link afterwards as well for that Chrome add-in comes in. Awesome. Let's look at some of our top tools that goes in. So we'll start off with very basic, creating a PDF. Now, you've probably done this before that goes in, but we just want to run through it. And as we run through these tools as well, we're going to be looking at things that are available and where they're available. So they might be on mobile, desktop, web, where you can access all of these things that goes in. And that includes that Chrome add-in that we were talking about as well that comes in. So I've got Acrobat open here on the desktop. If you don't have downloaded, you can download it from the Creative Cloud desktop application. And you can see on the left-hand side here, we have sort of all of our files. There's our cloud storages that we have access to as well. So I can hook up my Google Drive and see all the documents that I'm editing in there as well that comes in. And then to create PDFs, it's very straightforward. Now, you can see all your tools you have access to by hitting the All Tools button over here, and you can go through all of them. But things like creating PDFs, it's a very common process. So I would jump in here. Under the Create area, there's a Create a PDF that goes in. And you can create PDFs from multiple different spaces. You can upload images, you can grab multiple files or screenshots or anything like that. More often than not, though, you're probably going to be pulling like a Word document or an image file or something like that and creating a PDF from that. So you can just drag it over here and add it in. That comes in. Of course, if that file was in Google Drive, you could also pull it from there. Now, if you're working on your desktop, that goes in from there, and you have something like Word installed or anything like that, it will attempt to get as much information from the creation file that it goes from there. If it's working on the web, it'll pull that information from wherever storage medium that you've come in. Now, the way that Acrobat is designed is when it's creating a PDF like this, it's going to try and pull as much information as possible. So, for instance, if the document had things like bookmarks in it in the Word file or the Google Docs file that comes in from there, it'll pull that through and make sure that that information is included. Very straightforward to do. When you are creating PDFs, you're typically finalizing a document that comes in. So you always want to check this document as you come in and go, yep, here's all my information. I can see here very easily on the right-hand side, there's all my pages that are in there as well. So you get that unified view that comes in. Very straightforward. Saying that, you've probably done this before. You've probably created PDFs before that comes in. Now, once you have created PDF, let's imagine we're creating this. It's sort of towards the end of its life cycle. We're ready to publish it. But you've realized as it comes in, we're going, oh, actually, this is now locked. I can't make any changes, or maybe there's a typo or something like that I need to fix. Well, PDFs are not locked by default. This is a common misperception that we have, that as soon as you PDF something, that's it. It's stuck in that file format. PDFs are editable, and you can change text and images when you're working with them, especially as you get towards that final. Because what we don't want is you having to convert to PDF, then convert back to a PowerPoint file, or convert to PDF and convert back into Google Docs file or something like that. We want you to be able to edit these where you're working. We want to save you some time there. Now, typically, you wouldn't do full document editing in Acrobat. You would probably do that in Google Docs. That goes in. That's where you'd collaborate and things like that. But we do have these tools built in for these final mile edits as you need as well. So you could do this by when you're looking at a document, just like this one, let's imagine I'm working on this document here and I've realized, oh, actually, this paragraph here isn't relevant for this particular process I'm working on. I can either just hit edit a PDF here, or I can use the edit button up the top and it will show you all my relevant editing tools. So in edit a PDF, it will now split this up. And Acrobat is a visual style of editor, which means it will split like text boxes into large boxes so you can move around or change. And it's as easy as just clicking on anything that you want to edit, just like this. And you can highlight, you can see I can remove that there. It will pick up the fonts, it will pick up the styles that have come through from the original document and allow you to type additional info in. You even have your full editing suite here. So you want to pull up all your fonts that you have access to, and that will link to your Adobe fonts that you have under there, sizes, even things like line spacing, just the kind of things that you typically do in Google Docs that comes in from there. Now, of course, even things like images could be moved around if I wanted to. I could move that over here. I could add additional images in if I wanted to. Acrobat, again, is a very visual style of editor. So all of this is kind of split up into boxes that are easy to move, sometimes even easier than doing it inside a word processor that comes in. Now, if you're a historical user of Acrobat that comes in, a lot of these tools would have been up here on the top bar that you might be familiar with that goes in. When you go down, we can go, here's a more option, and we can see that there's watermarks, buttons, video, sounds, things that you might need access to as well that comes in. A question coming in, often I get a PDF of a plan of a store and it has dots all over it. How can I correct this issue? Might be a conversion issue. Depends on if the dots are something like a watermark that comes in. Sometimes watermarks can be placed on documents like that. You can check on watermarks here that goes in. If you definitely reach out to Tommy, because we can look at things like that and see what might be going on. It might be conversions, might be the ways that the documents are created that comes in. But if you want to, you can always hit edit and you'll be able to jump in here and move elements around, because remember, they're not locked by default, these PDFs. That comes in. Awesome. Now, we've got our PDF here. We've got that. I can do my editing. I can make those changes and publish it as needed. But a lot of the time, you might be in a situation where you're getting multiple files. So it's not just that someone's just giving you a document, say, finalize this. We say, we have a presentation and we have an image and we have a PDF, and I want you to combine these all into one finalized document so I can shoot that out. So Acrobat has some tools built in to allow you to do this, because traditionally this is a bit of a difficult task, getting multimodal type of files and pushing them together. So we have two tools for this. We have combined files and organized pages. And again, this can be done on the desktop. This can even be done on the web that comes in on acrobat.adobe.com. You have all of these tools available here as well if you prefer working in a web-based environment that comes in. So let's have a look over here. I'm going to go, let me get my files there. Sorry. There they are. It comes in. So let's jump in. Let's go combine. I like these ones. And let's say I'm going to jump back into my main area here. And I'm going to look for my tools. And in this document here, I have a PDF that's come in from like that. That's actually probably a presentation originally. And I have this nice image. And I want to include that in my PDF that goes in. Now, traditionally, you kind of have to figure out how the ways you would do that. But we have the tools that are built in here that allow you to do this. So under Combine Files, I can just pick this up here. And I can just pick my two files that I want to combine. So in that case, I want that presentation and my image. And I just drag them in here. And what Acrobat will do is give you a visual style of editing. So I can see there's my PDF. It has multiple pages. I can just hit the expand option here, and it's going to show me all the pages that are included. This will also work for things like word processing documents, Excel files, things like that. It'll also pull that all in. So I could pick up my image, and let's say I want it towards the front here. I just pick it up and drag it where I want it and pull it in like that. So again, it's very visual, the way that editing works. I can do this on a list view if I want, but I actually prefer to do it in this visual manner. And to combine them, I just hit combine. If I wanted to, I can even add in additional files that are included as well. But I hit combine there, and you'll see Acrobat will work its magic and push these documents together. And I can confirm that here on the right-hand side under my pages area. I can see all the files that are included. There's my image. It's also included with it as well. Now, some of these tools are also available here in this area. So you can see there's even a plus button here to say if I needed to add more files in, I can do that here. That comes in. Again, tools will be shown in multiple different areas inside Acrobat where it's most relevant. Awesome. Now, combined our files, sometimes it's the opposite, where you've got combined files together and you need to organize them. Maybe someone's done that wrong, or they've just given you a dump of a PDF where everything is in together. That's where your organized pages tools comes in. And again, These are just ways of automating this process or making it easier for you. These tools are available in different places in Acrobat, but this is like a unified view to be able to do this. So if I go into my Organize Pages tool, you can see it's list all my pages here as well. I can just as easily delete pages, rotate them, put them in here. But one of the tools you can do here as well is either replace pages. So I could click on these two and highlight them and hit replace if I wanted to, or I can even split these files out. So this is kind of the opposite of combining files. I could say I need to take a number of pages and pull it out into its own PDF. I can use the split option to do that here as well. It comes in. Again, this is a very useful tool when we're kind of moving these files together, pushing them and pulling them apart, that comes in. Traditionally, this is a bit hard to do without the right tools like Acrobat built in, that comes in. Now, all these tools we're talking about here, if you're not sure where to find them, so they are here on the left-hand side. You can hit the View More to see all of them there. If you're looking for organized pages, you can also just search at the top here. And it'll take you to the right tool. It's all contextual information that builds in from there. So that's your combining and organizing, very straightforward. Now, if you have reason to do this in bulk, we also have API tools that can do this as well. So that means that you could upload them to a particular file center and get all of that done in one fell swoop. Perfect. All right, next up. So we said we've created our PDF, we've combined lots of files in. Maybe as part of that combining process, we've actually ended up adding a lot of large images to our file, like we did before with that gym image that comes in. One step and one thing we want to take away from today's session is this optimization tool. So what this allows you to do is take PDFs that we know are quite big, that maybe have a lot of information in them, and optimize them before they're uploaded to your drive or sent out via email. And we know this when we're sending out via email. Typically with large enterprises, they have a attachment limit of about 25 megs. So if we are sending this out via email that goes in, we do have to be aware of that sizing that comes in. So when we're working with ones like this that goes in, we have the compress a PDF option that's available here as well. I would always, if you are finalizing a document, use compression that comes in. Now on the desktop, this is pretty straightforward. I can come in here, I can hit compress this single file. I'll save it into my downloads that goes in. Let's call this binder 2 compressed, like that. Goes in, and this is pretty straightforward. Acrobat will just look at your document, analyze it, and see what is the best compression method that it will use. If you have a lot of heavy images in there, it will make sure the images are still high quality. That goes in, and that's it. But you can also do this on the web, and you get a couple more options when you do it on the web that goes in. So if you want to compress something down that goes in, you can split up all your tools that you have here as well. So there's our split, things like that. But you can jump in here and use some of the extra ones in terms of compression there. Now, one of the benefits of doing it on the web as opposed to doing it on the desktop is you get more options. So because we're using the compression on the cloud-based layer there as well, it'll give you like a good, better, best option. So smallest compression up to largest compression, and you can decide. And I can see looking down in my downloads folder that original file was about 8 megabytes and it's compressed down to about 2. So that's not a massive file, but imagine if this was 100 megabytes and that's now down compressed to 20 megabytes. That's the difference between potentially someone waiting for your document to load and someone not waiting and just saying, oh, I can't do it, especially if they're on mobile, on their phones and things like that. So compression is one of those tools. Definitely consider that as you're using Acrobat. And I can see Tommy's put in some more information about that as well, which is great. Perfect. Awesome. So we've created our PDF, we've edited it, we've put our documents together, we've compressed it. Maybe we've sent it off to someone for review and they've come back, they've gone in, they said, oh, actually, you need to make some minor changes on this, or we need this in this particular format, or I want this as a PowerPoint file that I can then present or upload into Google Slides or something like that. Well, Acrobat allows you to do this. So we started in the edit, we started in the all tools area. We went to the edit space to actually edit some of our tools that comes in. The convert area on here will allow you to convert back into another file format. So don't think that once a document's gone into PDF format that it's locked there forever. You can convert back and forth as needed. That comes in. Now, the first one it will ask you to do is Adobe Express. Again, this is this tool that Woolies has access to that allows you to convert or put images on brand or pull in some of the Woolies elements. And the brand team is actually working on making sure that you have all your logos there soon. So you get access to Adobe Express as part of your Acrobat license that comes in. But if you have interest in some of the things that we'll look at a bit later, definitely let your brand teams and design teams know because they're deep into the trenches with Adobe Express at the moment. So that would be more converting to Adobe Express if I wanted to do things like put my Woolies fonts or my Woolies logos or brands or colors or things like that, or translate it into different languages, for instance. Otherwise, you have the more traditional file formats here, like Word documents, PowerPoints, Excels, image formats, and of course, some other formats here if you need them as well, including Photoshop that comes in. So yeah, you can always export out to Adobe Express as well if needs be, but here's your more traditional formats. That will convert it back into that as a more alive document that you can again take into PowerPoint or in Google Slides and present and things like that. And it goes in. So you convert is always available here as needed. Awesome. All right, before we jump into protecting documents and accessibility and things like that, one not as common process, but something really important to note is digitizing. So every now and again, we still get formats of documents that are in this format, that are scans or images or things like that. These days, it's not as common, but when it does happen, it's a big barrier for us because these documents are essentially dead in terms of data. They're just an image, or they aren't sort of readable in any way, shape, or form. Acrobat has some tools built in called OCR, or optical character recognition, that allows you to take an image or a scan. It'll read the document, pull out the information from it, and bring that data layer forward so you can edit it or change it. That goes in. This can also be done in bulk. So you have a lot of these. You can chuck them all into Acrobat or do it on acrobat.com, and it will OCR them for you. Now, why is this important? Well, once this document is then pulled out and we pull that data layer up with all the text on it, that can then be scanned internally by Gemini. It can be put into your Google Drive and searched. Whereas before, it's just an image, so all you had was the metadata. But if you're pulling that information out, that's then readable by a computer, and that data layer is being exposed. That comes in. So I'll close these out so I can show you the example that we're looking at here. There we go. But I'm going to pull up here. I'm going to go into my protect area. Oh, sorry, not protect. Scan OCR. And I have that same image we're looking at. This is just a pure image. So no particular information, not editable anyway. It's just someone's document they've taken a photo of that goes in. So what I want to do is go into my old tools. There's my scan and OCR tool here. This is specifically designed for either scans or these types of documents. I'm going to chuck it in. That goes in from there. That goes in. And you can see at the moment, this isn't editable. I can, hover over it, but this isn't text at the moment. This is just an image that goes in. So I'm looking at my scanned and OCR. I can actually enhance this image, so I could remove the areas around the edge to kind of make it not look like a scanned image anymore, or a photo that comes in. But all I have to do is hit this in this file button, recognize text, like that. It's going to pull through this document. It's going to make sure that it's reading the document, understanding the information. And now, this is all text. This is all editable text. But not only has it done this, if I go into the edit space now and look at this document, and I'll zoom up a bit here, what it's done is actually from the document itself, it's recreated the font that it saw in the document, and it's created a version of this specifically for this document. So it's Arial, but with a variation of 7827, meaning that I can now, on this document that previously was just an image, type in new information. Like that. It's recreated the font letter by letter inside Acrobat, so it's now editable. I can come down and put my name here, like that. I can even resize this box so it fits nicely, like that. All our common tools that we use, I can even move this over if I wanted to. All these tools, just like as if this was originally a Word file that I'm playing around with. It's even smart enough to pick up things like this list. So you can see, let's say this fourth option in the list wasn't relevant for this particular document. I can delete that out. It's updated the numbered list there, and it's also included that white space down the bottom. So it's smart enough to pull out that data layer. And now this is a fully editable document. You could chuck this in your Google Drive. Gemini could read through it and provide information on it. This is taking these previously dead information documents and bringing them to the forefront. You could do everything this does. This could be chucked into Adobe Express, and you could put your logos and footers and things like that on there as needed as well. So all of your standard editing tools are available here again as well. Really, really useful tool. It's called Scan and OCR. It's built into Acrobat, and you can also do it on the web if needs be. It comes in. Awesome. All right, next up. So we've gone through our top tools. We've gone through creating, editing PDFs, all the common things we want to know about. Another really key aspect of when we're using Acrobat is protecting information, because a lot of the time when we use Acrobat, we are going to be putting, it's a file format of note. We're going to be putting sensitive information here. It's designed to communicate with an external party where we have documents that really have to be protected that comes in. So Acrobat has a lot of protection tools built in that you can leverage, especially when it comes to things like putting passwords on documents or putting edit protections on documents that comes in. Now, you can do this in multiple different ways. If you're using some of our plugins, you can use this, but I would recommend, especially for Woolies, because you have pro licenses, that you use the Acrobat Protect tool built into Acrobat that comes in. And this allows you not only to put passwords on documents, but also do things like set restrictions on printing or editing or even copying information out of documents. Imagine that you've created a new social campaign and you really don't want, you're sending it to a vendor for printing, you don't want them to be able to copy it and send it out to someone else. You can apply protections to that PDF that you're working on that comes in. So you can do this here. I'm going to jump in. I'll exit this out here. It goes in. Oops, make it a bit smaller. And what I'm going to do is attempt here to open up a PDF that I know has protections on it already. So this one. So you can see when I open this up, it says you need a password. You've probably encountered this before. Sometimes bank statements and things like that have a password on there before you can access it. This will be respected whether I'm doing this here in Acrobat, whether I'm opening up on my phone or anything like that. So I enter in the password. And of course, then my document is available for me to use. But if I look here on the right-hand side where we could see our pages and we could see things like our reading order, we also have our security of this document. I can see this has an open password or a modified password. We don't specify which to make it even sort of protected even further. But you can see here, we can't edit, print, or copy this document. So there's a second layer of protection that's been put on this document. If I went here to try and edit this PDF, like that, it will say, no, there's not only the open password, you now have a permissions password that's set on this document. And this can be quite useful, especially if you're sharing things with external vendors. Now, luckily, I know the password for that. So once I enter that in, it then allows me to come in and make edits to that document as needed. So if I wanted to copy information out, if I wanted to do anything, I can as well. Now I can see all the security settings. If I jump in here, there's my protector PDF. And what I'm going to do briefly here is remove all the security on this document so I can show you what it looks like to set it that comes in. So I've removed that there. Here's our pages of our document that we're working on. Maybe this is an upcoming event that we need to make sure is kept secret. So all I have to do is hit this encrypt with password option. It comes in, it says, yes, I want to change the security. And I'll get these options here. Very easy to do this. I can set straightforward here a password that should be on this document. So you'd enter that in. Like that. It will even let you know if the password isn't great. That goes in if you need to add in letters or numbers or anything like that as you're using it. But beyond just a password to open, you can do editing that goes in. So I could say, well, actually, if I'm allowed to print this document, number one, am I allowed to print it or no? You can ban printing. But also, will the images in that document print at a low or high resolution? Maybe these are upcoming product that you guys are creating and you don't want that high resolution imagery to be shared out or someone printing it. You can do that here. You can even say, are they allowed to change this document? None means no, they can't edit or change or copy it. Are they allowed to insert pages or rotate them? Are they allowed to fill out the document, especially if it's a form? Are they allowed to do anything except extracting pages? You can choose that all here. You can even switch off, as we see here, enable copying of text, images, and other content. You can have it off and say they just can't Control-C out of the document. It will just block that. But underneath, there is an extra file here that says text access for screen reader devices for visually impaired. Now, we will be talking about accessibility in just a second, but this is really important. Always leave that on, because sometimes if someone's using something like a screen reader, it actually tries to copy the content from a document. So we do want that available for users who are using those accessibility devices that comes in from there. So you can set this all up here. And again, your password for opening and your password for your permissions have to be different, because it'd be like having the same password for your banking and for your work that goes in. We don't want to have the same password that's built in. Once you've set them and you save the document, that is applied. If it's sent out to another person and they try to open the document, they will have to enter in those passwords and you communicate that through whatever means you need. It comes in. So very straightforward to do. And that's particularly important if you are a document creator that's built in. Now, another really common aspect that comes in, I'm going to close out this one. And again, if you guys have any questions, please put them into the chat box as we're going in here, is looking at documents that have been created by other people. So I'm going to open this one here that we're having a look at. And let's say similar role here where someone who's at the finalization process of a document, but they're saying, can you just do a once over of this PDF, make sure there's no company information that we don't want leaking out included in this. So if I was reading this document coming in, I would go, oh, well, there's a stamp here. I'd probably delete that. That goes in. If I was reading through, this looks all good. There's a comment here. Yeah, definitely want to remove that. Little arrow maybe. reading through, looks fine. That goes in, that would probably be removed. But otherwise, it looks pretty okay, this document that comes in. Lots of information there that goes in. But remember, we're just looking at the presentation layer. There is a data layer underneath in this document where information can be hidden. So for instance, if I look on the right-hand side here, there are more comments than I saw there that goes in. These are left, and again, they're attached in that data layer. We don't want these being publicized out when this document is being shared. We have our bookmarks here that typically we do want to keep in, even though that's hidden information. We do want that. It helps, bookmarks help people navigate through a document. But if I look here, there's attachments. There is a full Word document attached inside this PDF that could share information. We've actually seen this happen quite frequently, especially in the US at the moment, where people are leaving in attachments in PDFs and confidential information is accidentally being shared out that goes in. There's lots of stuff here that could really trip you up. And we know this. We've worked with PDF for 32 years now. So we know the types of information that's typically accidentally left in documents. So we have a tool built in inside that same protect area that we're looking at area called remove hidden information. And what this will do is look at any PDF, can be yours, can be anyone else's. You just click it here. It will scan the PDF page by page and look for the types of information that we know is typically accidentally left inside that goes in. So the first thing it will do here on your PDF is look at the metadata, and it will go, this is actually the identifying information of your PDF. If I click on that there, I can hit show preview, and it will show me the metadata of this document. First of all, the author's name has been included. Sometimes we don't want that in there. But look at this description. First attempt at doing this, management made me do it. Definitely don't want this included. That goes in. So I can literally just keep this check marked here. And when I hit remove down the track, it'll wipe that for me. So it'll do this all for you. These are kind of similar to the compression step we looked at earlier. This removing information step, another one that you should really commonly do if you are publishing a document either internally or externally. So metadata, the next up is file attachments. Again, we definitely don't want that file attachment included. That's a full Word document. We have no idea what's in it. We want to remove that. Unless there's a very specific reason that you're including it, like creating a PDF portfolio, you want to remove that there. Bookmarks are also included. Now, typically, our bookmarks we do want to keep in. These are navigational aids. Definitely check the bookmarks. Make sure there's no information in there that we wouldn't want leaking. But typically, we'd leave these in because that's the kind of info that really helps someone who's either just reading a document or using things like a screen reader. It helps them navigate through a document really easily. And every time that you go out of this page and back into it, it'll rescan the document for any changes that comes in. So in this case, I'm going to uncheck bookmarks. I do want to keep them in when I hit the remove button. Next up is comments and markups. Generally, you always want to remove these because these are typically just for internal use. Comes in. Then under that, we have something called hidden text that goes in. Now, we're going to touch on redaction in just a second, but we know that a lot of people don't redact properly. That goes in. They will just inside a document just put the text as white, or maybe they'll drag a little white box over the text and think, yep, it's redacted. They can't see it. Remember thinking back to the idea of a PDF being a container of intelligence. That's only affecting the presentation layer. The data layer underneath, the text is still there. The representation is still there. And if you chuck that into Gemini or you put that up on Google, it's going to know. It's going to be able to read that data layer. So the information isn't really gone. It's just being hidden on that presentation layer. So this hidden text tool shows you exactly that, where text is still on the data layer, but it is visible. It's invisible on the presentation layer, but it's still there on the data layer that comes in from there. So you can see this. It'll show you hidden text, visible text, or you can see them both together, and it'll give you a little preview of basically saying someone has redacted this incorrectly that goes in. Generally, you always want to remove hidden text because someone has tried to redact it and probably hasn't done it properly. That comes in, and it'll give you a view page by page of what you want to look at. And you can see there, some of these is just small text like this. This is just highlights, that's fine. But there's full paragraphs here that someone has redacted incorrectly that goes in. So you always want that removing. This is actually a version of the redaction that we'll look at a little bit later. We always want hidden text removed. Deleted or crop content, links, actions, and overlapping objects. These are all optional depending on your use case. And that comes in from there. And so if you want to remove this information, all you have to do is just hit the remove button up the top here. And it will do all of this for you automatically. That comes in. And you can see it goes page by page, removes all that info, and it gives you little check marks when it's done. Perfect. Now this document is ready to publish. So just like we spoke about before, compression is one of those key things to remember from today's session. Removing hidden information is another one. It just always process this when you are moving documents from or the beginning to their end state. It's really important. Awesome. And again, do this all in Acrobat that goes in from there. These are all tools that are available directly as part of that Protect tool inside Acrobat. Awesome. So we talked about just this before, but redaction is next up. So this is not when we're thinking about just removing hidden information. This is when you are specifically required to remove information and you need a visual representation of the fact that this data has been removed. We've all seen redacted documents before. Comes in, has the black boxes over them as they come in. It's really important to use Acrobat to do this. It is one of the only approved tools by the federal government to actually redact information properly. And that's because it goes into that data layer. It's not just putting information over the top. A lot of people redact incorrectly. This is a really, really common process. Luckily, we make it super, super easy inside Acrobat to redact information. So imagine I'm working on this document, internal comms handbook. Maybe it's going to be included in some external policy book that we're going on there. I need some information redacted that goes in. So if I'm down here, we have a specific tool here for redaction called Redactor PDF. And it's really straightforward. Let's say this management responsibilities wasn't to be included. I can just highlight text. I don't want included. Oh, I'll highlight this bit as well. Just like that. It'll give you a little visual representation to give you information about what is being redacted. So it'll highlight it in red. And if you hover over it, it will show you what it's going to look like when it's redacted. Now, you don't have to just highlight text. You can highlight whole spaces like this and just create a box over it. And this works for things like, you know, if we're looking at this as well, I could highlight that and remove it. And this is important because what it's going to do, again, it's going to look whatever is underneath on that presentation layer, whatever data is underneath that, and wipe it completely. Also, remember, redaction, you can't recover the data. Once the document is redacted, the data is gone. So when we do redact this in a second, it actually saves a new redacted version for you and keeps the original just in case you need to go back to it. It comes in. So you've got that there, very straightforward. I could also redact full pages if I want to. Instead of just highlighting them, I can just hit redact pages here. I can do the current page or a specific page range if I need to. And that'll highlight the whole thing ready for redaction as well. And we even have some find tools built in as well. So you could say, do I want to redact just in the current document? Oh, where's my little one gone there? There it is. Do I want to redact just in the current document that I'm working on here that comes in? Or I can even redact across multiple documents if I wanted to. Do I want to look for a single particular word? Maybe I'm looking for someone's name. I want to look for multiple words if I want to as well. I can select specific words or even patterns in my document. Like I want to get rid of all the dates or all the email addresses in a document. You can use the search tools here to really save some time when you are doing redaction. Of course, you still need to verify this in a document because you need to make sure that every single instance of it is gone. But redaction is one of those really key tools that Acrobat can do. You can do it here directly in the desktop. Now, redaction can only be done in the desktop. You cannot do this on the web apps. You cannot do this on the mobile apps for a specific reason. It requires to go into that data layer, so you have to do it here. And as we said, the federal government has only approved the desktop application for doing this because it requires some special tech. It goes in. And then to redact, you just hit apply. It'll also ask you here, do you also want to sanitize and remove any other hidden information in the document just in case? So you can kind of hit both at the same time. Otherwise, you hit save. I'll save into my downloads and let's call it redacted. So it'll save a new version of it. As Tommy's saying in the chat, once the document is redacted, that information is gone. You cannot recover it. So we always save a new version of it for you. That comes in. Awesome. And that's redaction. Perfect. All right, we've got two more topics that we're going to look at. We're going to look at accessibility, and we're going to have a little view of Adobe Express as well, and how you have access to that. That comes in. But accessibility is a really big one. This is becoming very, very important, especially in our region, because we have a lot of government mandates now to make sure that documents that you're creating as a document creator, when they're getting processed or published internally or externally, they have some level of accessibility built into them. Now, Adobe's been doing this for many years. We've had accessibility tools built in to Acrobat for 10 plus years now. And we think this is really critical because Acrobat is a system of record. It allows you to jump in and create documents that are going to be viewed by many different people. And of course, there is a diverse environment of people out there who have many different needs that comes in. There are lots of different types of disability that do need support, not just sensory disabilities that we'll be focusing on mainly today, like visual or auditory, but there's also intellectual disabilities and other tools that when your documents with important information are being distributed, we need to make sure that they are as readable as possible for anyone that comes in. And this is important, especially here in Australia, because 1 in 5 people live with some form of disability that comes in. Globally, it's 1 in 6. And especially here in Australia, we have our Disability Discrimination Act, and particularly down here, this Digital Service Standard, which is coming into force this year, which has a requirement that documents for large organizations, such as Woolies, have some level of accessibility in them. Now, you guys will have accessibility teams built in already. You don't need to be an accessibility expert at all, and we're not suggesting that you will. Those teams or accessibility experts are the ones that go today already and tag these documents and make sure that they're visible. But as a document creator, someone that edits or works with documents day to day, there are some steps that you can take day to day to make everyone's lives a little bit easier. Now, if you're looking at these 2 documents as you come in, you have your auto tag API on one left and the same one here. If I have full vision, so like I do here, I look at these 2 documents and I don't see a difference between them. They look the same to me. But if I was someone who was using a screen reader, for instance, so I was using a visual accessibility device that comes in, this is what these documents are going to look like for me. On the left, that's one with full vision. On the right, this is what the screen reader would see on that document. And it's gibberish. If you read through this, it doesn't make sense. That's because this document hasn't been tagged correctly. And this happens for a number of reasons. People, when they're creating the document, have moved things around or anything like that, or the ways they've created the documents just haven't worked. It's all about these tags. It's all about how a document tells the computer how it should be understood. So that includes things like, is this an image? Is this a figure? Is this a title? Or anything like that. And this is a lot of the time done either in Word or in Google Word documents and things like that. It's kind of built out like that. But a lot of the time it's also done manually, and it can take hours to do. You would have accessibility experts or teams in your organization that are responsible for this, especially if you're large documents that comes in. Now, as document creators, there is a step that you can take that can get a document 60, 70% of the way tagged. It's never going to be 100% because you always require a human's eye to guarantee that. But what it can do is really get this document into a state that's going to make a difference for someone if along the track they're using an accessibility device that comes in. And it's very straightforward to do. So what I'm going to do is open up here an intentionally badly tagged document that we have under here, this one that comes in. Now, again, for someone like myself with full vision, this looks fine. I can see the images here. I can read all the text. This looks fine to me. But on the right-hand side here, we have a little option called reading order. If I open this up, this is going to show you what it looks like for someone who's using a screen reader device that goes in. So the first thing we notice here is there's no alt text for these images that goes in. So they wouldn't be able to see what's in these images. It has a little bit of tagging here. Yeah, okay, so when this document was created, there was probably some headings and footers and things like that. But you can, as we get forward, we can see there's things that it's missing. It's missed this whole image. It's missed the text here. It's missing a line of text in here. This wouldn't make sense for someone reading it. When you go to the next page, look at this. All of this is missed. So someone using a screen reader device who can't see that presentation layer, they're missing half the content of this document that goes in. So what can you do as an owner? You're not an accessibility expert, and no one expects you to be as well. But there's one step that you can take that's going to make a huge difference. And that's inside Acrobat here. If you go down to this Prepare for Accessibility option down the bottom here. So just like compressing your document or just like removing information, I would always run up here and hit Automatically Tag PDF that comes in. If you hit this, what it's going to do is scan your document. It's going to tag it all up for you and make it readable that goes in. And then you'll see, look at these tags it's now created under there. It has gone through and read the entire document. And if I go under here, go to my reading order, it hasn't created the ultimate text here because that still requires a human as part of the accessibility. But here we go. It's created the heading. It's created a separate span, which is a read on from that heading. It's tagged the image here. It's tagged these correctly. It's tagged the paragraph. And of course, it's included that line. When I scroll next, look, all this content is now included. So again, it's not going to be 100%. We can never guarantee 100% without a human looking at it and verifying it, one of your accessibility experts. But imagine someone down the chain, before it gets to that expert, is using a screen reader device. This is now understandable to them. So it's getting them 60, 70% of the way there. And this is all from just one button press, Automatically Tagged PDF that comes in. Now, we'll show you a little bit later. Some of our tools like Adobe Express will actually do this automatically for you. So you don't even need to hit the button. We're starting to integrate this directly into our processes that comes in. Awesome. Now, if you really want to get into it, if you're interested in tagging more, there's a tool called Check for Accessibility as well. I can hit Start Checking. And what it will do is compare to some of the accessibility guidelines like WCAG 2.0 that comes in, and will say, here are things that you might need to fix to get closer to that guideline or hitting accessibility standards. So for instance, alternate text, for instance. I can go here, and if you right click on it and hit fix, it will say you can actually jump in and start putting some alternate text on here as well. So if you really want to get into it, you can come in here and look at some of these features that you need to fix if needs be. Again, we don't expect you to be an accessibility expert. Just tagging is a good enough option for now that comes in. Awesome. Perfect. All right. So we've seen our top tools, we've seen protecting information, we've seen how to make things accessible. The last one is Adobe Express. This is a little tool that's recently been integrated with Acrobat that allows you to grab your documents and do things in a creative space, which we typically probably wouldn't associate with Acrobat that comes in. And we call this designing in Adobe Acrobat. So let's imagine I'm going to open up a little sample document here that goes in. And this is sort of an example that we use under here. Is a social media campaign brief that comes in. Maybe this has been sent to you by someone, or you're creating this internally. You're trying to pitch something for the social media team that comes in. But we've just created this in whatever application we've used. Maybe it's come out of a Google application. Maybe it's come out of InDesign or something like that. It's not on brand. It doesn't have the right fonts. Doesn't have the right colors or anything like that. How do we tackle this, especially if we don't have any sort of other creative tools that we can use? Well, built into Acrobat is Adobe Express. And you can come in here. You can see before we saw the ability to convert things into Adobe Express format if you want to, that comes in. But even when you're using the edit tools, there'll be an option here called stylize this PDF. And what I'll do here is I'll actually chuck in a version of this that you guys can play around with as well if you want to. That goes in. This is the same document I'm using here. So you can even click on that link and it'll open up in Express for you and you can play around with it. That goes in. Feel free to remix that template. But if I hit stylize this PDF, you can follow along as I'm going under here. What it will do is it will take this document that I'm working on here, and let me open it up here so we can see it. Like that. It's going to upload it into Adobe Express that we're using here. It's going to ask me for a bunch of different applications that we want to maybe use under here. And that goes in. So you can see here, the first thing it's going to do is put in some stylized PDF shortcuts under here. So these are just quick things that you might want to do inside there. So you could add stock images, which I'll probably do here. I want an image that goes in. I can change my shapes or icons or anything like that. Now, behind the scenes at Woolies, your design teams are working on getting your brands and your colors and your elements into Adobe Express. So when you jump into Express, you'll have that all available for you. So I'm going to show you what we've done at Adobe that'll be very similar to what you'll have access to available soon as part of Woolies that goes in. But let's say the first thing I notice here, we've used a placeholder logo when we've uploaded this in. This needs to be our internal logo, so the Woolies logo or the Adobe logo. So if I had that, I could just upload it here and put it in. But one of the greatest tools with Express is you can access brands. So your design team can create a brand for you and have all the elements of your brand sitting here in Adobe Express ready to go. And again, this is what the team is working on right now that goes in. So there, we've done this, of course, internally at Adobe. So we have our logos here. We have our colors. We even have our specific fonts that we've created for ourselves available here as well. Even some graphics that we typically use that goes in. So if I were to put my logo in here, I could just chuck that, and there it is. There's my approved brand logo that I've put in. Just like that, that comes in. I also need some images on the right-hand side here. So I could jump into my media area and I'll have the ability to look at my photos, and we'll have access to free Adobe stock that's included with Adobe Express. Let's go social media and let's find something, maybe this one. So I can just drag that in, that goes in. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so we can see it. I probably actually need to crop and resize this, but I'll keep it just like that for now. Maybe like that, that looks good. And you'll see it overlaps on those. But if I look on the right-hand side here, we have a layering system. So this is a light editor that's available to you. I can pull this down like that. And there we go. I've integrated that directly into my deck, just like that. Now, I know that the fonts that are being used in here aren't exactly the ones I want. I could jump in here and change it to a specific font that I have on there, something, and we'll even suggest some fonts for you here that goes in. But I could even jump in back into my brands, and you can see we have a specific Adobe font that we typically use, just like Woolies, you guys have your own font. So I can jump in here and say, I want to apply my fonts to this whole page, and not only just the pages I'm working on here, but every page of this document that I'm working on, just like that. So I can jump in, I can go apply my fonts. I can even do that with colors and graphics if I want to, and hit apply brand. And it updates all my fonts to my Adobe approved specific fonts that I'm using under here as well. All in one click that comes in. Again, you can upload your own imagery here. So if you have your own chosen stuff you want to put in there, you can pull from libraries if they've been created from your organization as well, that goes in. So I can pull in videos or photos or even audio as well, because it can be used for video and audio content as well. And you can even add in specific elements like charts and grids and sort of arrows and things that you want to point to as well. This is all built in that comes in from there. Now, one thing that your organization can also do is create templates. So it can build these out for you so you can recreate and build them on. So lots and lots you can do here with Express. And I'd highly encourage clicking on the little link there, the little remixable template, so you can have a play around in your own Express area as well that comes in. And lastly, one super cool tool that's built into Express as well is translation. So let's say this was a brief that I was doing, but we're also going to do this marketing moment over in Europe. And we want to make sure that my brief is localized for those content as well. Well, again, I have my translate option built up the top here. It goes in. I can hit translate all my pages. And let's say I'm going to translate this into Dutch, French, and German. That goes in there. So I'm setting all there. I'm going to make this formal. I want all of this formal. I can just hit one button, and it's going to translate that entire project into those 3 different languages and make it available for me. Now, again, this is using online translation. You probably always verify this with someone who's a native speaker as well. But let's have a look down here. Here is my French version that's been created like that, and it's translated all the pages into French for me, including the text that I included there, as well as the ending text there, all in one step. So this is all built into Adobe Express. And again, when I'm ready to take this and go, yep, I'm ready to now present this, put this into a PowerPoint, or pull this out as a PDF if I want to and send it off, that comes in. We have our little download option here that goes in. I can also share this in real time and have people comment or make changes to it if I wanted to, but I can add that. I can choose the file format that I want to export that in, so back to a PDF. And if you go into Acrobat, you'll notice it's updated in my recent files that I have my Express file there, and even PowerPoint files there. And you'll notice on the right-hand side here, our tags are there as well. So it'll even go in and do that tagging that we saw inside Acrobat as well. So that's a very, very quick view of Express. Of course, keep an eye and ear out for your design teams. They're working really hard at the moment to make this all customized for you guys, but you have access to Express as part of your Acrobat license now. So if you want to do things like generate a quick QR code, or you want to convert something into a GIF, that's all available here. Or you want to do some light photo or video editing that goes in, you have your logos ready to go. You can use Express to do that. And again, you can access Express directly, if we're looking at your one here, just by hitting stylize as PDF if you're already working on a PDF, or you can just go to express.adobe.com and you have access to it there as well. Okay. Awesome. All right, that is pretty much it. So we've gone through heaps of content today that comes in for everyone. Please feel free to ask any questions you have now. We have a couple minutes left in the chat box that goes in. If you have any other features, of course, we only just really scratched the surface of Acrobat today. If you have any other features that you want to have a look at, reach out to your teams, reach out to Tommy. We can always host additional sessions on more features, or if you want to look at forms or interactive PDFs or anything like that, we can dive into them as well. But hopefully this gives you the tools you need to do that minor editing, optimizing, protecting your information, accessibility, and visual edits of your documents as well. That comes in. Perfect. Yeah, and Tommy, I can see you sharing his email in there as well.
Lots of thumbs up coming in the chat, so thank you, everyone. Feel free to drop any final questions in the chat. Callum can jump into them right now. Otherwise, you can do the feedback form, which Michelle has just dropped in there too. So let us know if there's anything